Welcome back to 6 and 6, where we cover 6 stories from around the world in 6 minutes or less. With that said, start your timer. We begin today in South America, where the FBI and Chilean police have taken down an international gang of thieves. They have dismantled an international gang responsible for robberies in the United States, arresting 23 suspects and seizing valuables worth $1.36 million. And our quote today comes from Reuters. Quote, "This phenomenon of international thieves has regretfully existed in our country for many years, but it's unfortunately been on the rise," stated prosecutor Eduardo Beza. He noted that these criminals historically operated in Europe. Their focus has increasingly shifted to the United States. The operation, dubbed Operation Pennsylvania, unfolded across numerous residences in Santiago, resulting in significant arrests and seizures of different products and illicit materials. End quote. Next, we transfer across the Atlantic to Africa, where South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa, sorry for mispronouncing your name, sir, has launched a judicial commission to investigate whether past administrations obstructed investigations into apartheid-era crimes, following a court case by victims' families seeking justice and compensation. And from Reuters, quote, "The Department of Justice was responsible for ensuring that the apartheid and repressive laws were drafted, enacted, and enforced. Courts were virtually segregated, with one part serving the so-called homelands, while the other served the former Republic of South Africa. The difference was not only the kind and quality of resources given, but also to the very infrastructure to dispense the justice in the first place. While courts and other structures administering justice in the RSA were in many respects first in the world standards, the homelands were left virtually on their own and forced to operate with inadequate and often outdated resources and technology." Next, we travel back across the Atlantic to Cuba, where it is actually looking for support from China to revive its struggling tourism industry. Once again, the quote comes from Reuters. Quote, "Cuba aims to double its Chinese tourist arrivals by strengthening its ecotourism, culture, health, and nautical tourism industries, among other options." The Memorandum of Understanding on Tourism Cooperation signed between China and Cuba underscores one of the key instruments for tourism development. The initiatives taken will be in accord with the identified interests in cultural tourism, health, historical heritage, and multi-destinations of the Caribbean. End quote. Next, we travel across the Pacific to South Korea, where South Korea's Supreme Court is set to rule in a case involving a leading presidential candidate as the election approaches, a decision that could impact the political landscape. From Reuters, quote, "The Supreme Court's decision is highly anticipated and could influence voter sentiment ahead of the election. This election was prompted by the impeachment of Yoon Suk-yeol, who was ousted from the presidency by the Constitutional Court following a December initiative to declare martial law, led by the parliament under Lee's direction. On Sunday, Lee was officially designated as the Democratic Party's presidential nominee after securing victory in the primary elections." Then we travel down south to Australia, where reports of rare trade surpluses with the United States, driven by a surge in gold exports amid a global gold frenzy, has led to the idea that Australia could sustain this sort of surplus moving forward in an unstable world economy. From Reuters, quote, "The recent surge in gold exports from Australia highlighted a pivotal moment in global commodity markets. As international demand surges, driven by factors such as market uncertainty and geopolitical tensions, Australia's position as a major gold exporter has become increasingly significant. The nation's ability to capitalize on these trends underscores its tragic importance in the global gold trade. Furthermore, the dynamics of gold markets are influenced by the combination of technological advancements, policy shifts, and evolving trade dynamics." End quote. And finally, we travel to Spain, where the Prime Minister Sanchez faces pressure to explain a recent blackout, with officials stating the solar power was not to blame for the grid failure. The quote, again from Reuters, says, quote, "The recent blackout in Spain serves as a stark reminder of the complexities involved in managing modern power grids. While it may be tempting to attribute such incidents to the increasing reliance renewable energy sources, the reality is much more nuanced. The issue lies not in the use of renewables themselves, but in how these sources are integrated and managed within the grid. This requires sophisticated systems capable of integrating and managing the grid and handling a variability of solar, wind power, and so forth. End quote. And of course, if you want to check out any of the articles in their entirety, all of them will be linked in the description below that like and subscribe button. Also down there, you can find the podcast on Spotify, Pocket Cast, Podvine, as well as the Twitter handle at Your Daily Flip, where I post links to both these episodes, 6 and 6, the international stories on Tuesday and Thursday, and to the normal America-focused podcast that comes out on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at the same YouTube channel. So, with all that said, there's only one more thing to say. Stay safe, don't die.